This is the end of the beginning. Welcome to today's show. It's important to cover this topic about blocking out the sun. It's a topic that has come up over time, over and over again. Of course, this ties into the sky dusting that we see on a daily basis in our lives, that the people out there who think they're educated and smart, the narcissistic liberal types, actually tell you it's water vapor. They're so insane they don't realize that water vapor would dissolve within seconds in the sky. It wouldn't sit there all day and form what you think is a hazy sky or hazy clouds. But if we all look outside right now, I guarantee wherever you are, for the most part, depending on when you listen, of course, and depending on if I put this up at the time I record it, which I'm not, so I don't know. But let's just think of yesterday, huh? I'm sure if you look up at the sky yesterday, you looked up and you saw nothing but haze and you were told that it's fire, right? It's fire blowing all the way from Canada across the entire world. It's hitting Spain. It's hitting Uranus probably at this point. And they'll continue to tell you that because they're preparing you for blocking the sun. Now, I'm not a scientist, and I never claimed to be, of course, because nobody's as smart as scientists. Nobody could BS as good as they do. But I'm not Bill Nye. But I'm going to use common sense here. Blocking the sun probably would not be good for growing crops, right? I mean, blocking the sun also probably wouldn't be good for human life, would it? Well, the government's telling you that it is good and it's needed. So as you're seeing the entire country here in America covered in a haze, covered in formaldehyde and benzene, which isn't funny, but you cannot laugh sometimes at this stuff of how ridiculously stupid these people are who actually continue to say people like us are conspiracy theorists when the government is pretty much, they're holding a sign. It's like you might as well have a sign right on the roof of the White House. You might as well have a giant all-seeing eye and pyramid on top of the White House. And these people still wouldn't see, but the White House is pretty much waving a flag that says, yeah, we're doing this to you, and we can't believe that there's people out there that actually believe us despite the poor acting skills, despite the overly obvious narrative of how they're creating a civil divorce in this country, how they're working people emotionally all over the place. Nobody can figure it out. They're cracking up. But they want to shield the sun now because of climate change, and they're showing you how they're going to do it. So what they're doing right now is desensitizing you to the whole notion of sun shielding. And the next thing you know, that we're going to wake up tomorrow and next week, and the skies are just going to continue to be like this, not as if they haven't been already, because most of these people, the majority of society, haven't even noticed the chem clouds over the last 2 decades in our sky. And obviously when that started, it wasn't as bad as it has been the last couple of years, right? Now it's literally day to day. Well, why do you think that is? They would have loved to dump all of that on us right from the get-go. But they desensitize people over time. They continue to do it. They put propaganda out there about chemtrailing, and they put it underneath YouTube videos to try to debunk it and tell you it's water vapor. And all these people just continue to believe it despite having it right in front of their faces. And they've become so used to it, they don't even ask questions as to why there's not blue skies anymore and why there's no sunlight anymore. Well, they're going to continue to do this over and over to get people used to sun blocking. And you won't believe, as I pointed out on the website, and everybody out there already knows, you'll believe one of the people who is in support of blocking the sun. Oh, look, it's Billy G again. Take a look.
Bill Gates is backing the first high-altitude experiment of one radical climate change solution, creating a massive chemical cloud that could cool the Earth. It's called solar geoengineering, and it's highly controversial.
How long will it be that countries keep experiencing these climate impacts before someone gets desperate and says, hey, we need to cool the planet with solar geoengineering?
It would look something like this. Thousands of planes would fly very high and use nozzles to inject millions of tons of light-reflecting particles into the stratosphere. It would create a thin chemical cloud of those particles around the whole planet, blocking some sunlight from reaching the surface. It would mimic a giant volcanic eruption, which we know cools the Earth.
So I mentioned that on the website covering everything that's going on now with the fires last week. And it's very, very obvious these same people have their hands in all this stuff, right? Well, to people with eyes and ears, it's very obvious. But to zombies, they just can't seem to realize that these people like the Billy G's of the world and the Bezoses, it's the equivalent of having Jeffrey Dahmer and John Wayne Gacy, in those positions. They're as psychotic as those people are. But they think of them, they're like, oh, Bill Gates, he ran Microsoft. We have to respect and trust him. He tells us about the climate. He cares about the environment. He cares about what we eat. No, he doesn't, actually. He wants to kill you. And he's doing so. So are all of these rich globalists. So let's take a look at what they want to do here, because the White House and, of course, the UK at the same time, because this is a world order, remember, so all of the governments of the world are going to work together. But the White House is now saying they're open to a plan that would block sunlight from hitting the surface of the earth in a bid to limit global warming. Don't worry, we're going to just hold up your hands right now in front of your face. Left hand, right hand, okay? And pretend there's weights in there. The left hand and the right hand, right? You're balancing it out. That's what I'm doing right now. Let's see. The pros of combating climate change, man, my scale's not really moving, versus the cons of blocking the sun. Yeah, I think it's a pretty big difference between the two and what's more important and what isn't important. Of course, people don't realize that climate change is something made up by our government that gives them an alibi, pretty much an excuse, to get away with what they're doing right now, right? The lead-in stories on the news are no longer just regular lead-in stories. They're leading in with the weather, crazy, weird weather, thanks to the climate, of course, not them, not HARP, not all the things they wouldn't let us talk about for all these years. We've only talked about it over and over again, just like we all talked about the magic potion for a decade beforehand and nanotech. Oh, man, then all those things happened, and they still called us crazy, right? That's what happens when you have a society of narcissists. So, the White House has opened the door to an audacious geoengineering plan. The idea would block sunlight from the Earth's surface to fight global warming, as you heard Billy talk about. Scientists have warned the practice could have devastating effects. You think? Do you think crops are going to grow without the sun? I mean, this is basic common knowledge, right? You can't grow food, you can't grow plants without sunlight, right? Don't we need plants and trees and these things, because we're breathing, oxygen and carbon and all this? Doesn't this all work together with common knowledge of how humans exist and trees and photosynthesis and all this stuff that they've beaten into our heads? Oh, well, now we don't talk about that stuff, right? Because now we don't want you to question the fact that we're going to eliminate the sun. There's no benefits of the sun. Wait, what? Don't you want plants to grow and trees to grow? No. What? You're a racist. That's what they'll say, right? You're a bigot. Stop asking a question like that. That's racism. That's how ridiculous this has gotten. That's really the way that they would combat the question. If you asked them at the White House, which none of the reporters at the White House would ever ask, of course, because you're only in there if you're one of them, just like Fox News is in on all this too. They're the ones working psychologically our society. Nobody would ever ask that, but how would they combat that question? Well, how dare you? How dare you ask that? You are homophobic. That's what they would say. So the White House has opened the door to this plan, despite some scientists warning the effort could have untold side effects from altering the chemical makeup of the atmosphere. You think? President Joe Biden's administration have admitted they're open to the idea, which has never been attempted before. In a report released Friday by the White House, officials suggested, it's amazing they're doing this while our entire country is in smoke warnings, the worst air quality in the history of humanity, is what they're saying. And they're coming out and they're saying, while this is happening, this is the balls that they have. This is how they know they can get away with anything. They come out and release a report on Friday suggesting limited sunlight would rapidly cool the planet, a process known as solar radiation modification. So they're saying that it'll cool the planet because it's so hot. So they're blaming the forest fires that they started on the hot climate. They're blaming stuff in Texas on climate change, right? Oh, all this bad stuff's happening because of the climate change, right? Meanwhile, if the Earth is warming so much, why is it so cold everywhere else? Why is it in the 60s in New York? Why is it in the 60s and the low 70s in New Jersey, in Washington, where they are? Oh, well, we don't answer questions. That's what they say. How dare you, you racist? We can't answer that. Oh, it's just hot in Texas. That's crazy. That must be climate change, because it's never been hot in Texas in July before, right? Okay? Oh, and by the way, what about Canada, they'll say? They'll say, what about the wildfires? Oh, right. You mean when we see helicopters dropping fire from the sky? Oh, right. You mean the ones that you created yourself? Yeah. Oops. Didn't see those. I mean, that was climate change. Wink, wink. So in a report released Friday, where the White House officials suggested limiting sunlight to a rapidly cool planet, a process known as solar radiation modification, the administration added a note of skepticism to the report by noting that Congress ordered it, insisting it has not made any decision on geoengineering policy. Well, of course they're going to go through with it. On the day they approve blocking the sun, there'll probably be some big story at a school that involves a bang bang, or there'll just be some big story about how these certain group of people don't have any rights, even though they're allowed to do everything, and they literally could have parades butt naked, walk around the streets in front of 3-year-olds. So they'll do something to distract you because they do it every day. Maybe there'll be another Titanic sinking ship, submarine, whatever it was, right? Yeah, that'll be convenient. So the report noted several ways authorities could look into achieve this, all of which come with potentially devastating consequences if they backfire. Yeah, one method would be they will backfire. That's the point. Not if they backfire, they will backfire. There is nothing good that could come from blocking the sun. Okay, I think a newborn baby has figured that out. These are the adults in Congress that are rich, sophisticated, elected. So they could backfire. No, it will backfire because what you're seeing is a deliberate destruction of our world on purpose. One method would be to significantly increase the amount of aerosol in the stratosphere. That sounds great. Which would reflect the sun's rays from the planet. Other ideas floated included increasing cloud coverage over oceans or reducing the amount of cirrus cloud formations, which reflect solar radiation back to the Earth, right? So let's just spray the aerosol. I mean, wink, wink, aluminum and barium, right? Things like soft metals that would get in your skin, which would give you cancer, but we won't get into that. It also suggested that committing to the idea, then backtracking and changing course could lead to abrupt warming as the sun rays suddenly heat the earth once more, even though it couldn't be cooler in July in this country. While insisting that it was not definitely moving ahead with the plan, the Biden administration insisted in its report that the idea appeared promising. It said a program of research into the practice would enable better informed decisions about the potential risks and benefits of blocking the sun. What about the negative? What about common sense just saying, would this be good for growing food? Don't worry about that. We have plenty of food. I mean, McDonald's isn't like, nothing there is grown on a farm. We create it in a lab. Oh, okay. Don't worry about growing food and water. I mean, we've got bugs and we've got, fake meat, right? I mean, it's not real meat, it's plant-based meat. So we have Impossible Burgers and all. You can eat that crap. Oh, right. And then your hormone levels change. You get a lot of estrogen. And then what happens? Oh, right. Everyone who's conservative turns into a liberal. They become really weak, right? So I don't need to continue on because this is just absolutely ludicrous that it's even being mentioned. But the UK is also very interested in this absolute sabotaging idea, right? And the UK is ahead with the climate stuff over there. They're forcing that down people's throats more than they are here, but it's pretty bad here. But I mean, they literally are, all of the UK is trying to ban fireplaces, having wood-burning fireplaces, wood-burning stoves now here in America we're seeing, right? But more so in the liberal states, of course, because they're hurting us, obviously, into this national divorce where liberal states, everything will be electric so that they can control everything, right? See how it's working here? And then, of course, while this is all going on, nobody's suspicious at all. It's like nobody's suspicious as Billy G, is involved in this, and he was just involved with something a few years ago and was pretty much like the second face for it, other than Dr. F. Right, maybe be a little suspicious as to how these people wield so much power, right? Oh, right. Because there is no elections. There is no voting to put these people in power. These people have just demanded power over all of us. And a lot of people are willingly submitting this power to them. And that's why they want to take a certain thing that goes bang, bang, right out of your homes. Because then they could really rape and pillage. A reminder, check out my other channel if you haven't. It is linked below. There's a good chance. There's always a good chance that this channel gets a strike. So definitely make sure you subscribe to it now. It's called An Eye for an Eye. It's a temporary name, or it could be a long-standing name. I don't know yet. I haven't thought it through. I'm pretty much just starting here as a new YouTuber, of course. So please make sure you do that for me. I'd appreciate it greatly. I thank everyone for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you and your families.